Hello and welcome. So we'll take a few moments to prepare. First, take your hands underneath your buttocks and draw the buttocks and the upper thighs back a little bit and apart, and check that you have the right amount of support under your pelvis so that your knees are at least the same height as your pelvic rim at the top near your waist or lower. So if you find your knees are pretty high up, then put more blankets under your hips. And that allows the thighs to release and the spine to lift. And then put your hands with the heel of your hand where your wrist is right up at the top of your thighs and push down. And lift your spine up and out of the joints of the hips, essentially. Your whole pelvis and spine are lifting up. And then release and see if you can keep the little feeling of that space in your hip joints. And then let your spine rise up with some strength. Broaden your front shoulders, draw the shoulder blades back a little bit, and feel your neck and your head balanced right over the middle of your pelvis. So today is our standing pose day, and I want to remind you of a wonderful quote from one of my friends and teachers in the yoga world. And she says there's only two mistakes you can make in yoga. One is working too hard, and the other is not working hard enough. And I love that because I think each of us needs to really establish our best level of effort on any given day, and certainly in any period of our lives. So, we may be very energetic or not so much. And as we get older, we may feel like not as motivated to work hard, but yet it's really important to work hard enough to maintain our strength. So that's a very delicate decision and intention that we each have to make based on our awareness of our own body and what our needs are. Okay, so let's chant our invocation, which is the peace mantras. And we'll chant it 3 times through with Om Shanti 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 at the end and a single Om at the beginning. So with your spine long and tall, relax your throat. Inhale. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu Ma Vivishavavahe Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu Ma Vivishavavahe Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu Ma Vivishavavahe Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we, teachers and students, be protected together. May we enjoy the fruits of our actions together. May we achieve strength together. May our learning be luminous and purposeful. May we never have enmity for one another. And may there be peace, peace, peace. And once again, take a couple of deep breaths. Feel the expansion of your body on the inhale and the release of any unnecessary tension as you exhale. And just observe in this simple seated pose what effort is needed. I think for all of us, it's so easy to just slump, and we do that from time to time during the day for sure. And then we remind ourselves that the spine is going to be more healthy if it's lifted and supported. Okay, starting, let's do some breathing first before we do the movements of our warm-ups. So we're going to do Kapalabhati, which is cleansing of the central channel of the subtle body. It goes from the pelvis up through the top of your head. and the name literally means shining the skull. So we're using a forceful exhalation to send energy up that central channel and supposedly, hopefully, clear away any obstacles. So of course, we have sensations that come from that are more direct. So after you finish doing this, I want you to observe your sensations. So take a breath in. And we'll do it several more times. That was a chance to give it a try. I'll repeat the instructions now just to remind you. First of all, you can clear your nose anytime. And then the breath is a sharp exhalation using only your lower stomach muscles, keeping your upper body from the waist up very quiet. Maybe there's an impulse that you feel, and you could even see if you watch yourself in the mirror, a little impulse that goes up, but it doesn't, the upper chest and head and neck don't go up and down noticeably. So we're trying to keep the effort very direct and very specific in the lower abdomen. And you can do as many puffs as you want. You're not thinking about the inhalation, it'll happen by itself. You're thinking about the sharp, quick exhalation, keeping your throat soft and your posture very tall. So let's do it again. We'll do it 2 more times. Take a breath in. And take a few normal breaths in between rounds. Feeling the effect, of course. And now 1 more round. And then notice how your mind and body both feel. Maybe there's a different sensation deep inside. All right, circle your shoulders, warming up all the different parts of the body that might be stiff after sleeping. And then with your chest very lifted, shoulders pulled back, turn your head to each side, going to the end point. So really do the full extent of what you can do with your head and neck turning, and then increase it a little bit if you want to by pushing with your fingers on your jaw to turn your head a little further. And do that on the other side. Okay, back to center, and now keeping your spine lifted, look up, feel a stretch that goes from your chin down to somewhere in your front chest. And then tuck your chin towards your chest and stay there for long enough to feel the stretch of the back of your neck. And then move between those 2 extremes slowly with awareness. Try not to do it in a perfunctory way, even though we're so familiar with this movement. You're doing it as an exploration to see how your body feels today and also to give it a good stretch. Okay, now the side stretch of the neck. Take your head to your left shoulder, right hand reaching out to the side, finding the stretch in the side of the neck into the shoulder. And your head is lined up with your shoulder. So even though we're going to go forward in just a minute, in this first position, you're going straight off to the side, as if your ear could touch your shoulder. And then turn to look down, and at this point, your head goes forward just a bit. And then turn to look up, and even though your head will go back a little bit, really keep it mostly aligned over your shoulder with the chin and the eyes and the nose all turning upward. And then move from one of those positions to the other with your hand massaging, your other hand coming into massage if you want. Find those tight spots and give them a little finger pressure. Okay, and back up to center. Take a moment to feel. And then go to the other side. So your head goes to your right shoulder, left hand reaches out to the side, and as we'll do all through the class, gauge how much effort you want to put into this and what the effect of that effort is. So always in yoga, we're not just making shapes and keeping a form in the body, but we enliven that form with action. And that's the work that my friend was referring to. Working too hard, not working hard enough. That work is activating your body from the inside with conscious awareness of how you're doing that. And then turn to look down. And then turn to look up. And as you turn to look up, it's not just the top of your head that goes back, but your whole head turns. So your chin and your nose and your eyes are all looking up as much as you can. And your shoulders are still level to the floor. And then move back and forth between looking down and looking up with your other hand massaging, maybe digging in a little bit in the tight spots. And then back up to center and circle a couple of times. And then remembering that first thing we did where you pressed your thighs down and you lift your spine up. With that as a basis now, arch your whole spine, leaning back, leaning into your fingertips a little bit behind you, and then come forward, exhaling, curving your whole spine carefully. And go back and forth like that. The purpose here being a gentle movement in total, but feeling all the parts of the spine participating. All right, back to center. Change the way your legs are crossing. The other leg in front. And reestablish as much as you can, equal weight on both sitting bones. Lift your spine and turn to the right, using your hands and your spinal muscles and your stomach muscles to turn and not letting your legs participate. Your legs stay steady. You're twisting from the waist up. Back to center, inhale and exhale. So these slower warm-ups are a really good chance for you to observe your own level of effort and where the effort is exactly. Spine and abdomen mostly in this pose. And then move with a smooth speed, whatever pace you want, from side to side, with still awareness of how you're doing it, what actions you're using, and how much effort you're using. All right, let's do Baddha Konasana before we go down onto the balls. So make a little pad for your ankles and heels to be higher than your toes. Could be just rolling up the sticky mat a little bit. But for those of you whose knees are quite high in the air, you're going to need more, maybe a towel that's folded up. So the purpose of doing this is to have a good alignment between your knees and ankles and toes. Knees, ankles into the feet. Press your feet together and widen your knees apart, which activates the muscles up in your hips. I hope you can feel that. And then lift your spine and bend forward by making the movement happen from the hip joints rather than rounding your shoulders and head down first. You can decide how much curve you're going to allow in your spine. Keep sending energy out through the top of your head, however. So there's some tone in your spine and your chest is moving forward just as much as your shoulders and head are. Press the feet together again and breathe. All right, come on up. So let's go right down onto our backs and work on the, no, I'm changing my mind. Let's do the front of the shoulders a little bit with the larger balls, because that's usually involved when the trapezius muscle in the back is tight. So we'll do the front of the shoulders a little bit and then roll over and do the back. So use the larger hollow balls, lying down on your stomach, place the balls on your front chest, between your breast and your collarbones, and you can explore, exactly how high or low they are. I've lately been enjoying using the balls right up next to my collarbones. But there's a fairly large area there of the pectoralis major and a couple of smaller muscles underneath it, which are commonly tight because we do all of our actions with strength in the front of the body. So those muscles are working in those circumstances, even just, picking up a frying pan to wash the dishes. Once you're settled, the movement is a side-to-side movement with your chest, leaving your arms resting on the floor. So try that for a couple of passes across. The ball will roll slightly across the upper chest. And then stay in one place in terms of left to right movement. Leave your head on the floor, forehead on the floor, and then lift your arms just a little bit off the floor and do a small movement with your arms, you can have your elbows bent and you're bringing your arms up a little bit around the sides of your head and back down again. Just a very small movement because the balls are on the muscles that move the arms. So you're going to feel that effect. And then if you want to, move the balls to a slightly different place, probably a little bit wider. But if you're happy with the spot you're on, you can stay there. We'll do another minute or two, and then we'll be turning over. All right, let's finish that up. Come back to center and take a deep breath. And then remove the balls and turn over with your smaller balls ready to do the trapezius. So the small, solid balls that are about the size of a small orange. Place yourself on your mat so you'll have room to move back as we roll in the direction of your head on the balls. Place the balls under your upper trapezius, one on each side. And we often use the block under the hips, so if you know you like that, you can put it in right away. It will give you more pressure into the upper trapezius. And also make it a little easier to tell where the balls are exactly. You can just feel them more distinctly if your hips are up on a block. And then you have a choice
to start with your arms on the floor, loosely encircling your head, or with your elbows pointing up and your hands resting on your forehead. And then roll very slowly side to side. That's one option. The other option is to stay still with your torso and move your arms. Either way, you're exploring very simple, very slow movements. And noticing how the ball has a different angle of pressure into your muscles as you do the movements. And you can move the balls with your hands anytime. Like just now, I moved one of the balls a little wider apart. And it's amazing how a small change can make a big difference in what you feel. Okay, now let's move the balls down a little bit in between your shoulder blades. You can leave the block in or take it out. Here, it's really important to have the arms either up in front of you in the air or higher than your head. If you bring your arms down, the shoulder blades move together and they don't give you enough space between them. So then you have the same movement choices, side to side movement with your upper chest or arm movements. Maintaining very slow speed so that you can really notice what's happening. What sensations are coming from the pressure of the ball? And then let's move down now to the next spot between the shoulder blades. So you're getting towards the lower end. You're kind of, we got this spot and one more. So you're about halfway down. And notice the feeling when you take a deep inhalation, because obviously the lungs are right behind the ribs here, and or inside from the ribs. So there'll be an effect when you take a deep breath. And then move down so the balls are at the bottom tip of your shoulder blades. And at this point, there's more space between those tips, so you can have more choice about where your arms are. I like to have my arms up overhead for this one. You're starting to get to another muscle called the latissimus dorsi now, which is a very strong superficial muscle of the back body going from your arm to your pelvis. And then move down a little further. And now move down a couple of inches so you're getting close to the waistline. And this should give you a back bend shape in your spine. So notice that and see if your breath feels any different from that. And then go down around your waistline. And here you're moving the waist side to side and noticing that the pelvis moves as well, just a little bit to the opposite side. But keep your legs and your knees pretty still. The benefit of this technique is when you move the part of your body specifically, right where you have the balls pressing into the muscles. And then go one more spot down, and this is where we'll finish up today. So just somewhere down in your lower back, maybe a little below the waist, maybe all the way down until just you get to the top of the pelvis. All right, let's take them out and get ready for the warm-up. Settling on your mat, feel your back body, what the effect of the ball work has been. And then lift your legs and circle your feet. And bend and stretch your legs, alternating between your toes pointing and your heels reaching up. And really get your legs straight at whatever angle you need to do in order to really straighten your knees. And if that's a difficult thing for you, you can do one leg at a time so you have a little more focus to really get to the end point of that stretch. And then bring the block between your knees. Squeeze it a little bit so it stays in place. Arms are to the side with the palms facing up and your shoulders pressing down. And then move your legs to each side slowly, noticing the work you're doing in your abdominals and your shoulders. So the shoulders stay flat to the floor and the abdominals are working, and also your spinal muscles are working to support the weight of the legs as they go off center. Okay, one more time each side. And then back to center and take the block away. Widen your feet for windshield wiper. They're on the edges of the mat, knees pointing straight up at first, arms are next to your head, reaching back. And then you take the right knee across toward the left foot and stretch the whole right side. Notice from the waist down to the thigh, you get longer in that direction, and then from the waist up to the fingertips, get longer in that direction, and notice the amount of effort you use to do that. And the second side, the right knee at this point, the second leg stays with the knee pointing straight up, while the other leg angles over towards the foot, creating a long diagonal. Beginning at the waist, stretch into your knee, and beginning at the waist, also stretch up through your arm. So a big part of animating our poses is using that condensing energy and expanding energy. So we find the center and we expand away from it. Now getting ready for the bridge pose. Feet are on the floor, on the mat, parallel hip width apart and just a few inches away from your hips. That's going to be variable according to your leg length and your level of flexibility for back bending poses. So those of you who are feeling a little stiffer, you can have your feet a little more forward. And if you want to go a little higher, you can bring your feet in closer. Tuck your shoulders under Bring your upper arms next to your body and fingertips pointing straight up, and then lift your hips as you press down into your feet. Lift your chest, tuck your shoulder blades in again, and then find the right amount of effort for today. The effort in this case is lifting up and then making sure that your lower back stays long and the way you do that is pull your legs out through the knees and pull your spine up towards your head so that you're making space in the lumbar spine to prevent any pinching or compression there. Stay there for another couple of breaths. And then sit yourself down onto the block. The block is going across to support both sides of the pelvis. Take a breath there. And then lift your right leg up, straighten it toward the ceiling and bring it all the way down to the floor, heel touching. Check that your knee and your toes face straight up. Reach the leg away from the pelvis and also gently pull your abdomen up away from the pelvis as well. So you're clarifying this stretch across the front of your hip, the right hip. And then lift your left knee towards your chest and straighten the leg up or as far up as you can. And then lift your right leg off the floor and take some breath, noticing that you do not need to clench your shoulders at this point. The block is positioning you so you can leave your shoulders relaxed and still do the work in your lower body. And then switch legs just to do a little scissor action and switch back again. And then put your feet flat. Take a deep breath as you rest on the block. Now take your left leg up, stretch it straight and bring it down so the heel touches the floor and your toes and your knee are facing straight up. And you're elongating the leg out of the pelvis, also pulling your left abdomen up a little bit away from the pelvis. And then lift your right knee towards your chest. Bring the leg up as high as you can, straightening your foot if you can, straightening your knee so your foot goes up. And then lift your left leg off the floor, hold it. Take a breath. Notice that you don't need your shoulders here. You can just keep your upper body relaxed. And then do one scissor action, so your left leg comes up and your right leg comes down. And then switch back. And then put your feet flat and take the block out. So on your own, of course, you could do more scissors. We just did one set. Okay, take the belt around your right foot. Hold the belt with your shoulders still on the floor and your arms reaching up, and your right leg straightens, and then you create the anterior tilt with a little space behind your waist so that you're not kind of jamming your waist back into the floor as you pull with the belt. So there's a balance here between the push and the pull. Strong action in your leg. And of course, the question is for today, how much do you need to get your knee straight? How much effort do you need? If you can, you straighten the left leg, reaching out through the heel. And then steady, smooth breath. And lift the left foot off the floor a couple of inches. Hold it. Put it down and take the right leg to the right, turning it out slightly. You can move your arm out to the side as well so your elbow helps to support the leg, your elbow on the floor. Feel your left leg, hip stays down on the floor, but then lift your left foot off the floor. Both legs are still strongly straightening through the knees. And then put the left leg down and bring the right leg back over, crossing to a diagonal, widen through your hips. You've changed to hold the belt with your left hand now, and you're reaching the right hip out to the right to help support the weight of the whole leg rather than let it flop over further to the left. And then lift your left leg a little bit off the floor. And put it down and take the belt off. And we're going to do, let's do the twist that we usually do. So move your hips to the right, bend the right knee, cross over, and look down at your left leg. Actually lift your head up and look down to see that you've got the left leg aligned straight down the mat, parallel to the edges of the mat. And then bring your right knee across, resting your left hand on it. And if you want, you can straighten that leg, stretch it straight off to the side. Reach through your right arm. And then back to center. Reset your pelvis in the middle of the mat and pause to breathe. And then bring the belt around your left foot. Leave your right leg bent at first as you really stretch straight through the left knee. Consciously choosing the amount of effort that you need to do that. Reach up through your heel. Notice that your waist is off the floor a little bit, and then stretch your right leg straight if you can, pressing the thigh down as you reach through the heel. So both legs are pressing towards the back of the thigh. And by doing that, you're maintaining this anterior tilt of the pelvis, which is that your waist is slightly off the floor. And then lift your right leg off the floor as you continue to pull with the belt on your left leg, noticing the level of effort you're using. And then put the right leg down, take your left leg to the left, and maintain the width of your shoulders here. So often people contort the shoulders when you're having to use the belt in this way. Try to keep your shoulders broad across the front. Lift your right leg off the floor slightly. And put it down and come across to a diagonal with your left leg, holding the belt now with your right hand. Widen the pelvis with using the muscles on the outer hips as you stretch through the foot. So there's a two-directional energy and strength in your left leg. And then lift the right leg off the floor just slightly. Notice the work that's required to do that, not just in your leg, but in your spine and abdomen too. Okay, release the belt, move your hips to the left, cross the right leg over, but first just look down the mat so you see where your right leg is positioned. It's going straight down the mat. And then your left leg goes across, you rest the right hand on the knee and reach back with your left hand to get a diagonal stretch from your left knee to your left hand. And take some deep breaths, extending through the straight leg and feeling energy also extending out the top of your head. And come back to center. We're going to do just another lying twist here, supine twist. This time you cross your legs. So take your right leg completely over your left leg. So your two knees are crossed each other. Move the knees up towards your chest and move that whole arrangement of your legs over to the left, reaching out through your right arm, and your foot comes to the floor. The knees probably won't come to the floor. And come back, keep your legs arranged that way and go to the other side. Again, the foot can rest on the floor, but you don't have to have the knees come to the floor. Notice where the right position is for you to get a satisfying stretch. Back up to center and cross the legs the other way. So the left leg's over the right for me. And then let's go to the right again first this time. So take your knees to the right. Notice the stretch. One or both feet are probably touching the floor, but the knee is probably not. Stretch through your opposite arm. Come back to center, keep your knees crossed that way and go to the second side. All right, come back and place your feet parallel. Breathe and feel the symmetry again. 2 hips, 2 knees, 2 shoulders, 2 feet. Roll your head side to side. And then come over onto your stomach. Let's come up onto all fours actually today. So come up onto your hands and knees. And just sway your hips a little bit from side to side. Arch and curve a couple of times, cat-cow pose. And then now let's come up onto the fingers. So lift your palms and wrists away from the floor so the weight is on your 4 fingers of each hand and your thumbs just lightly touch the mat. And then bring your palms back to the floor and know that the fingers still press into the floor even though you've got your wrists back down on the mat. Broaden your front chest. Tip your pelvis so the waist comes down a little bit and the sitting bones go up. That's the anterior tilt. Tuck your toes under and lift up, going into a dog pose with bent knees, stretching your arms, lifting your sitting bones up. Look back at your feet and make sure that your feet are parallel, the ankles and the knees and the middle toes all in line. And then stretch one leg at a time, slowly. As you stretch the leg, the knee muscles are working to straighten the knee and the heel is going down. So really straighten that knee as the heel goes down, and it may not touch the floor, of course. And then both legs straight. Another couple of breaths here in downward dog, full pose, fingertips pressing, sitting bones rising up, toes spreading, heels coming down, and then come down. And let's come up, shake the hands, because we did a little extra on the hands today. Just shake your hands out. And actually, let's do a little wrist stretch before we go back into one more set of things on the hands. So take your hand in front of you like you're going to shake someone's hand. Curl the fingers back and put your other hand around that hand so that you can stretch your wrist in the opposite direction from the way it is in downward dog. And then do the other side. Your hand is reaching forward, and then you curl the fingers in toward the wrist so that the wrist is bending in the opposite way from the way it is in down dog, and the stretch goes across the back of your hand and up into your forearm. The arm that's being stretched is straight, the elbow straight. Okay, and let's do a little back bend here. I'm going to turn sideways so you see me better. So you touch the front of your pelvis. We're not going to go into camel pose yet, but just a little lift. Touch the front of your hips. Pull your shoulder blades in and down. Lift your front chest. And then move your jaw back a little bit. And then the top of your ears back. And then finally the top of your head. So you're doing as if we're going to go into camel, but we're just going to stay here for another breath. And then come back up. Okay, let's go back into dog pose. Or no, let's come down and do cobra, because you just did a little cobra while you were up on your knees. So let's do it now from the floor. Come down, belly on the floor. Use your forearms on the mat to pull your belly and chest forward. And then lift your knees off the mat so you can pull your hips and legs, not your hips, but your legs back away from the hips. So the hips are our center, and we're pulling away from the center towards each end of our body, the head and the toes. And then place your hands the way you like to have them for cobra. I recommend having them a little wider than shoulder width. And the further forward they are, the more easy the pose is, and it's more demanding when your hands are further back. So you choose. Shoulder blades engaged, legs stretching, lift up into cobra. Stretching your head up. And because we did that preparatory back bend, maybe you feel a little more opening in your front body here. And come down. Put your head to one side. And again, place your hands, draw the shoulder blades in towards each other and down away from your ears. Lift up. And your legs are active here. So observe, how much effort are you using, and where is that effort exactly?
And what is the result? And come back down. Okay, let's come up and do some lunging. So bring your blocks in if you want to use them. Step your right foot forward. Widen and lengthen the back knee a little bit on the mat. Extend your spine forward so your spine is already supporting itself. And then lift your back knee off the floor. Pelvis is facing the end of the mat. So try not to have your pelvis tilted to one side. It's level to the floor and it's squarely facing the end of the mat. And then bring your forearms up to your front thigh. So you're balancing. See if you can dip your back knee down a couple of times. Balancing. And then bring your hands to the block. Move your hips back towards the back leg, and both legs are straight now with your front leg only on the heel. And we'll turn, swiveling on the heel, turn your pelvis around in a half circle in the air so that you contact different parts of the hamstrings. And then bring the blocks back on either side of your front foot, put the back knee down, and make sure that it's not too far forward, that it's placed back further than your hip. So you already have a little bit of stretch going on in the front, in the back leg's hip. And then put your left hand on the floor, reach around with your right hand and catch your foot to bring the foot in toward the buttock and stretch your quads, turning your shoulders to the right. And back to center. And now let's just change sides. So bring your left foot forward between the blocks or between your hands. Adjust your back knee so it's a little further back and a little wider than maybe you placed it first. Lift up the back knee so you're in the basic lunge, pelvis facing the end of the mat, and level, if you can tell, as much as possible that your right and left hip are the same height away from the floor. And then bring your forearms to your front thigh and bend your back knee. In fact, both knees will bend, bringing it down a little bit and back up again. And then bring the blocks to the inside of your left foot, straighten both legs, move your hips toward the back leg, and come up onto the left heel and turn on the heel so your hips make a big half circle. And you're stretching all the parts of the hamstrings. And come back and face the end of the mat. Put your back knee on the floor and make sure that it's not directly under the hip, that you have some length there. Your hips are way in front of where the knee is touching the mat. And then put your right hand on the mat or stay on the block if you wish. Reach around with your left hand to catch your right foot and twist your torso as you pull the foot in towards your buttock and possibly move your hips forward. So your control of the intensity is how far forward your hips go and also how much you pull on your foot. So watch what effort you're using and what is the result of that effort. All right, let's finish this sequence with the downward dog one more time. And then move forward on your mat, widening your feet, bend your knees and lean on your thighs, extend your spine, and inhale, come up. All right, we'll do standing poses now. So shake out. Place your feet hip width apart and parallel. We're going to do the exercise with the widening of the thighs, which is a strengthening technique. It's isometric, reminding us that we can use the thigh bones to broaden the pelvis and more accurately align our legs. Bend your knees out over the middle toes. Put your hands on the outsides of the knees Push in with your hands and out with your thighs. And look down at your feet and try to keep your feet balanced in a normal way, meaning that your big toes and little toes are still on the mat. Extend your spine forward, your sitting bones back, and the abdomen strong. And then come up. So that knee exercise, it's really a hip exercise, but it affects the knees so much. Many people's knees tend to move in towards the midline, out of alignment with the hips and the ankles. And this is the exercise that will help adjust that. Now, Utkatasana, the chair pose. Inhale, raise your arms. Exhale, bend your knees, and remember how it felt to do that previous action. Your knees and toes stay aligned, but your hips are broadening. Shoulder blades coming together, fingers reaching apart. Your head is not dropped down or excessively lifted, but you're looking at the floor about maybe 4 or 5 feet in front of your toes. Abdomen and pelvic floor are strong. And inhale, come up. Take a breath. This pose inevitably builds strength, but we get to determine how much we work in the pose. So now we'll do it a second time, and you can raise your arms a little higher if you want. You'll often see this done with your arms in front, and the reason I don't teach it that way is that people tend to round their back when the arms go forward. And it's much easier to keep a long, strong spine with your arms to the sides. So, and as the arms go up, it's more challenging. So you decide how much challenge you want. Inhale, raise your arms. Exhale, extend your sitting bones back, knees forward, aligning over the middle toes. Bring your arms maybe a little higher, but still elongating your spine. No curving in the spine, keeping your sitting bones going back and your head going forward at a diagonal. One more breath. And inhale, come up. And shake out. Now we're going to do Garudasana, which crosses the legs and the arms over each other. I like to practice it myself, facing the wall and touching the wall with one little fingertip, really literally my pinky finger. But I'm going to demonstrate it facing you, and you can choose to face, to be near the wall or not, and to face the wall or not. So starting out, let's stand on the right leg first, cross the left leg over so the knees are crossed. If you're able to get the toes to tuck behind your lower leg, you can do that. And then bend forward slightly with your torso and cross your arms so that the right arm comes over the left. And there you are, you're looking straight ahead with good focus, noticing the effort that's required to balance and to just keep your legs in this position. And your arms in this position. Possibly lift your elbows up a little bit. Breathe. And release. Shake out. So that's the eagle perched on the mountaintop. Okay, other side, you're standing on your left leg. Your right leg completely crosses over so the knees are touching. If possible, you move your right toes behind the calf, lean forward, and cross now your left arm over the right. Look straight ahead with intensity because that helps the balance. Lift your elbows just a little bit. Spread your toes. One more breath. And inhale, come up. Shake out. Okay, let's go on now to Leaning Goddess, which is stretching for the adductors. And this is a pose that embodies an image of strength, the strong warrior goddess. Your knees and feet are turned out moderately to the sides in a way that allows your knees to point the same direction as the toes as you bend your knees. So check that out right now as a preparation. Bend your knees and watch to see that each knee widens enough to point toward the toes, rather than having your feet point out more than the knees. And then come back up. Here we want to lift the upper body up as the legs are working strongly. So even though we're going to move down, physically in space, move down towards the floor, there's a tremendous lift of the upper body. Inhale, raise your arms, palms facing forward. Exhaling, bend your knees in that way we practiced, reaching your sitting bones back a little bit so your upper body angles forward. Stretch your arms to the sides, but still tug in with your shoulder blades. Lift your pelvic floor. Notice the position of your head. And inhale, come up. So let's do for fun today the lion action with your mouth. So we'll practice it once before we go into the pose. It's a pose, it's a sound of strength. So what you do is you stick your tongue out and you make this sound. Okay, a battle sound. Inhale, raise your arms. Exhale, go into the pose. And inhale, come up. Okay, so that's a good pose to do once in a while when you need to let out some energy. Okay, now we'll do triangle pose into half moon. So take the blocks, if you wish, at each end of your mat. So they're ready for you. Take a wide stance and turn your right leg out. Spread your toes. Feel the four corners of your feet and stretch your legs straight. So there's the discipline of keeping the knees straight in this pose. It's a discipline for every single one of us. We work together on this, students and teacher, straightening our knees. Inhale, raise your arms, palms facing forward. Exhaling, move your hips towards the left as your hand comes out over your right leg. Comes to place your hand on your shin or on a block. Re-stretch your legs if you have bent your legs to get into the pose. And then extend your spine as much as possible straight over the right leg. Your left arm is reaching straight up. And steady breath. And then bring your left hand to your waist. Bend your right knee to step in with your left and bring the block way out in front of your toes. You're on your right leg and right hand as you lift the back leg up into the half moon pose. Left arm stretching up, left leg stretching back. Notice the effort. Make the effort needed to steady yourself and lift the back leg a little higher. And then carefully come down. Come back up onto two legs. Stop to breathe. And then getting set up for the other side. Wide stance, turn the left leg out, and stand for a moment with your legs strongly straight. From the waist up, you're facing straight ahead, even though your hips and legs turned towards the left. Inhale, raise your arms, palms facing straight ahead. Exhaling, move your hips to the right, upper body way over to the left, knees remaining straight as your hand comes to your leg or to the block, or to the floor if you can get there. But don't sacrifice the extension of your spine in order to get your hand lower down. The blocks are useful to help you learn to extend your spine in this pose. Roll your right shoulder back, right arm comes up. And breathe as you expand from the center and observe all the effort you're making and the result of that effort. And now we're going to go into the half moon. So bring your right hand to your hip, bend your left leg and step in with your right leg. Bring the block way out in front of your left foot as you come to balance on your left hand and left leg. So in this pose, you try to straighten your standing leg, but it's okay to do it with a slight bend if you need to. But do prioritize stretching the leg that's in the air and lifting it as high as you can. And then very carefully come down and stand back up. And notice the effect of the effort of those two poses. Notice your heart beating a little faster. Okay, now we'll do Warrior 2 and Parsvakonasana. Again, you've got a block ready in case you want it for your hand in the second pose. Place your feet wide apart, spread your toes, and turn your right leg out to be parallel to the sides of the mat, the long sides of the mat. From the waist up, you're facing forward. Inhale, raise your arms, palms facing down this time. Exhaling, bend your right knee and check that it's over the ankle, pointing toward the toes. For many people, the feet start too close together, and you can always widen them at this point if you need to correctly align the front knee, the right knee. Gaze to the right, but still stretch back through your left hand. Shoulder blades down and in. Front chest and heart lifting. Steady strength. And let's do the crescent warrior. So bring your left hand to your hip. Right arm reaches up, and you can gaze up at your right hand if you want. And then come down with your right hand coming to the block or your ankle. I do it on the big toe side. Left shoulder reaching back. Left arm straight up. And then over your ear. So there's a long diagonal continuous from your hand to your shoulder, to your hip, to your foot. And then notice the effort you're making. See if you want to increase it a little bit or not. And then give a little pulse to come up. And breathe. Second side, turn your left leg out, the leg and the foot, so the knees facing towards the toes. Pelvis has turned slightly. From the waist up, you're facing straight ahead. Arms come up, palms down. And then bend the left knee. And this is where you can adjust the width of your legs if you need to, because you want the knee to end up over the ankle, pointing towards the toes. Pelvis and head are lined up vertically with each other, and then look to the left. Lengthen your tailbone and lift your front abdomen. And then rest your right hand on your thigh, lift your left arm up, make a crescent shape, leaning slightly towards your back leg, and then come all the way down with your left arm, bringing your hand to the floor or the block on the inside of your left foot. Roll your right shoulder back, bring your left arm straight up. You can stay there or take it over your ear to create the nice, long, strong diagonal. So notice, the first thing you might notice is the stretch of your right side, but notice the work that's happening in your left hip. There's a lot of action there. Expand from the center, and then give a little pulse to come up. Turn your feet parallel and step together. All right, let's do the tree pose. You have a choice to stand near a wall or hold on with your hand on a chair. You can have your back to the wall or your side to the wall, your choice. So stand for a minute and just feel the soles of your feet. Spread your toes and tone the muscles around your leg bones so they're ready. Lift your spine up and out of the pelvis. And now lift up your right foot to bring the sole of the foot on the inside of the left leg. Bring your chest up so it's over your pelvis. And then see what you want to do with your arms. It's your choice. You can touch your support the whole time, or you can touch with one hand, take the other arm up, So your choice, but the priority here is to find your balance and observe and experience the strength you're using. Not too much, not too little. You're looking straight ahead with focus. Don't be worried by a little fluctuation of movement. It's natural for that to happen. And release down. Pause and breathe. Okay, lift up your left foot onto the inner right thigh. And once you've got that set and the legs are strong, lift your belly and lengthen your tailbone, which will support your lower body and help you be able to lift your spine up and out of your pelvis. Shoulder blades pulling together, and then raise your arms to whatever position you want to try for this side. So you can touch your support with one hand or both. Gaze straight ahead at something you can focus on. And if you want to play around a little bit with your arms, you can change your arm position while you're in the pose. It's an interesting thing to do. Keep breathing. Notice the work you're doing and where you're doing it. And come down. Shake out. All right, we're going to do Prasarita Padottanasana, the wide leg forward bend. So place a chair at the middle of your mat with the seat facing towards you, and the chair is a little bit off the mat so that you'll be able to lean into it. Some of you may want to use blocks or nothing to bend forward towards. This pose can be done without any props, but I like to demonstrate this version because it's so nice after a standing pose sequence to end that standing pose sequence. Spread your toes, stretch your knees straight, and then bend from the hips to come forward. You can touch the support you've chosen with your hands and extend your spine. And then gradually bend more from the hips with your spine still extending. And adjust your props so that you can rest your head if possible. Your hips continue to reach back, but if you were to look at yourself from the side, they're not behind your feet. They're in line with your feet. And there is some weight coming into your arms or your head, whichever is touching the support. Let your breath slow down and become more smooth and steady. And then we're going to come up soon, but first bend one knee and see how that feels. And then switch to the other side. And one more time each side. And then back to center. Extend your spine and come halfway up. And then step your feet a little towards each other. Bend your knees and come all the way up. Okay, we're going to do pigeon pose to finish, and then your favorite Shavasana variation, whatever you want to do. So gather the props that you usually use for pigeon. For many of us, we raise the hips up a little bit on a folded blanket or even a bolster. And then I like to have a block to put in front of me to rest my hands on. So come forward with your right knee coming out to the side, the left leg going straight back, and your hips facing the end of your mat. So it's important to spend some time and some attention aligning your body properly. If it's difficult for you to get the leg to go straight back, bring your hips higher. Support your hips with more height. So you can draw your navel to the right and your sacrum in the back of your pelvis towards the left and face directly toward the short end of the mat. So that's really important. And the higher you go with your hips, the easier it is to do. And then if you want, bring a block under your hands and let it support you as we do a little cobra pose. So we've been doing this a lot today, lifting the spine up and out of the pelvis, getting length from the very base of the spine, and especially in the lumbar spine behind your waist, and then lifting your chest and upper chest and shoulders and head up. Look up toward the ceiling. Notice the effort and the stretch that's coming from this. And then come down. You can bring your forearms to the block or the floor. And then rock just a little bit on your hips, left to right. And come down with your head if you can, possibly onto a block. Keep your thighs widening from inside as we stay in this forward bend for a few breaths. So even though you could relax in this pose, I'm suggesting that you widen your pelvis the way we've been doing, the way we practiced when you had your hands on the outsides of your knees. And then come back up with your torso and reach back with your left hand to catch the foot if you can. Bring it towards the buttock. And as much as possible, face your torso forward. And if your knee feels okay with this, you can rock a little bit from side to side on your knee. So that gets the different parts of the quadricep muscle group. Okay, let's go to the other side, pigeon pose. Your left hip is on the support. Your left knee is wider than the hip, so don't do it with your knee right in front of your hip. It's very hard to get the alignment correct if you do that. So you've got some support under your pelvis, and the more support you have, the easier it is to get that back leg to go straight back with the knee and the toes facing downward. And then bring the block under your hands to help you lift. Bring your upper body, your spine, your torso, your chest and shoulders and your head up away from the pelvis, doing a little cobra. And then come down. Bring your forearms to the block perhaps, or maybe to the floor. And rock a little bit side to side. And then come down so your head can rest. And that's why the block is handy. If you don't feel comfortable taking your head to the floor, you can use the block. And then come back up and we'll catch the foot from behind. So you're going to reach back with your right hand, catch the foot and pull it towards your buttock. Turn your torso as much as you can towards the end of the mat once you've got hold of your foot. And then slowly, carefully rock from side to side on the knee, the back knee, if that feels okay on both knees. All right, and then let's come out of the pose. We'll do a brief downward dog and then Shavasana. Stretch up into down dog, opening up the knees again. Take some deep breaths. And come down. And now I invite you to set up your favorite Shavasana. For me, I like to have a blanket under my spine, made into the shape of a small bolster. And then settle back into it. Adjust your pelvis, pulling it a little away from your lower back.
Roll your legs in and out. And then relax your legs. Tuck your shoulder blades in toward the spine just a little bit, and make sure that your arms are not right close to your body, but give yourself some width with your arms. And that allows your shoulders to release more towards the floor. Palms are facing up. And then roll your head side to side. And then come to a neutral position with your head and begin to feel your breath specifically. So each inhalation, each exhalation, you're right there, feeling the sensations of the breath. In this pose, there's no physical effort, and there's actually only the mental effort of watching your breath and feeling the sensations. Allowing yourself to be still. If you like, you can do Ujjayi breath, which will help you feel the sensations of breath. And that is making a soft sound as you exhale, like a whisper. Still breathing through your nose, though. Take some deeper inhalations and feel your body once again. Any sensations in the mind and the body. Noticing the breath and how your body begins to energize itself to get ready to come up to sitting. Bend your knees in towards your chest and roll to one side. And come up to sitting. So we practice with the emphasis on choosing our level of effort and being aware of that choice and its effects. So I invite you to watch in the next few hours of your day what you feel from the practice. Bring your hands together and we'll chant one Om with gratitude. Inhale. Om. Thank you. Namaste.